Good evening and welcome to Going for Two. This is the only YouTube podcast in human recorded history to feature a male and female host drinking our way through the important topics of the day, as long as they touch the football world, but not in that way. Now, I'm on pins and needles, Sharona. Are you going to tell your fan base of your weekend plans? Don't make us beg.
Well, I had originally planned to reveal this on my podcast tomorrow, but I think that it's only fitting since my buddy Joe from Cats Chronicles is on with us tonight that I go ahead and do it. Yes, your girl Sharona is going to be covering the NFC Conference Championship game in Charlotte this weekend.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Yeah,
So by covering, do you mean drinking or actually covering?
Well, there will probably be drinking involved, but not at the game, actually, because I'll be in the press box.
Okay. And we would like to introduce our special guest tonight, trying to get over the curse, the 1 week curse we had last week. But we did have the Seahawks on, and we knew they had no chance of winning until they almost did. We have Joey Riollano from Cat Chronicles here to talk to us. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for having me on the show, Zach. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Excellent. I'm glad there's no fear. And before we start, now I'm in the email industry, so when I send an email, this is my little celebration dance. There we go. Just a little cam. I could do that.
But do you dab?
I did that like 2 months ago, and it was right before everybody did it. So yeah, I'd show Andy Reid doing the dab, but it would take longer than this show is going to be, so we'll not do that.
Yeah, dabbing is not cool anymore since all the white people are doing it.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. So can we go through the experience of last weekend's game? Like, Joe, how did you feel last week, say, around halftime, and then how are you feeling with about 10 minutes to go in the game?
Well, at halftime, I was elated, of course. I didn't expect anything like that from the Panthers. I expected them to come out and run the ball, but not be completely effective as they were on offense in that first half. However, I wasn't fooled into believing this was going to be like a 70-0 game. I know Seattle was really talented. I think there was a bit of shock and awe that they were dealing with in the first half. And I knew at halftime they'd go in, change a few things up, sort of get their bearings, and come out in the second half ready to play. The kickoff return of 50 yards was pretty big way to start the second half, and then I still am trying to figure out what the personal foul penalty was, but it was on Colin Jones that gave them an additional 15 yards, which had them starting around the Panthers' 35-yard line. So you want to talk about the perfect way to come out after a really bad half. And it was a couple of plays later, and boom, they're in the end zone. And that started the momentum for them and kind of carried it. When we were down, when they caught up to, I guess it was about 21, that's when I started watching the clock. And I was thinking, okay, if the Panthers get a few first downs here and there, we can run the clock out. And eventually that's what happened. The Seahawks just ran out of time. I have no problem admitting that. That's one perspective at looking at the game. If we were to flip things around and say the Seahawks put up 24 points in the first half and Carolina comes out and puts up 31 points, we would be talking about this game as the greatest comeback for the Carolina Panthers in history, let alone playoff history. So it's a matter of perspective. Fortunately, as I said, the games are timed, and they just didn't have enough of it.
Well, is there any worry, and I'll jump in and then Sharona can ask a question, is there any worry that the defense has been giving up a lot of points, like in second halves of games, that's going to come up again? Because Arizona, of course, has a great offense too. Didn't
I
quite
do.
show it last week, but they usually do.
Right.
So I don't know. It's hard to say because it was like they had a lead, so that makes things a little different. But it's a pattern. So I wonder if there's a bit of
Sure.
worry about that.
This has been going on for the last maybe 5 or 6 weeks, going back into the regular season, where we built a big lead and then sort of just stopped being aggressive. We played more not to lose than to win, and I think that's the biggest thing. Ron Rivera addressed that this week. Cam Newton addressed that this week, talking about taking our foot off the accelerator and not changing your offensive style if you're up big. Not saying we're going to get up big on Arizona, but once you get a lead, not to be satisfied with that, whether it be 31 points or 7 points. You keep going, you keep attacking, trying to get another score.
Yeah, Joe, Ron Rivera's faced that criticism before, though, not just this year. I recall, was it 2 years ago in the playoffs when they went really ultra super conservative, and I don't remember. It seems like they were in the red zone and they did some kind of really conservative things. This is not new for him.
No, not at all. This has gone on, well, in his first year of coaching, we ran into this problem several times where he just didn't trust either the offense or the offensive line, and he wouldn't go for it when, for example, a 4th and 1.
That's the one I'm thinking about.
Right, there was a 4th and 1. It was against the Falcons, and he, instead of going for it, it was late in the game, instead of going for it, he punted, and they ended up driving down the field and winning the game on, last-second field goal or a touchdown. I don't really recall, but this was in Atlanta. And had he converted on that 4th and 1, that would have been the ball game. They would have ran out of time. And that happened several times that first year for him. So the second season, when he ran into these type situations, he started going for gambling, and that's when he earned the moniker of Riverboat Ron. Right.
Yeah, and I love it that his Twitter handle is Riverboat Ron. I think that's fantastic. Hey, everybody, meet new kitten, Iggy.
Hi, Iggy.
So you're going to have a full football team of cats in about a month, huh?
Probably.
You have your own Panthers.
You picked a good team. Yeah, I have 2 black cats, so I'm with the whole Sir Purr. Although I saw a weird Twitter handle today. It was called Salty Sir Purr. It was like, right. I don't know. It's a
that's I follow them. He's pretty funny. He says some funny stuff on there.
The Not Mike Talbert account is really funny. I don't follow it, but it gets retweeted in my time because I do follow a lot of Panthers people. It gets retweeted into my timeline quite a bit.
Yeah, they have some characters, the Carolina Panther fans. We really are a diverse bunch. Yeah. And since we've been winning, I've seen a lot. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and I've seen a lot more Panther memorabilia on vehicles. Where like the stickers or flags are like the cleanest thing on the car, like they just literally just got me and put them on. I've seen a lot of that lately.
I don't. The whole bandwagon, fan wagon thing. It doesn't. I mean, it's fun to follow a team that's winning. It's not fun to follow a
What's
team.
What's it
like? Of course. I've talked with Zach about this. I don't know if Joe and I have really ever talked about this. I mean, I've followed the Panthers since back in their early days. I remember, when they got that team and the Jay Delhomme, days. And I really didn't follow them all that closely when Kerry Collins was the quarterback, because that was a little bit before my time. But now the Jake Delhomme days, yeah, I was there, and so I saw an article from Blue Review, Black and Blue Review, I think is the name of it.
That's right.
It had some really funny quotes from Jake Delhomme about like the 2003 and 2005 games and stuff. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, Jake was. I remember the game. I think it was against the Rams. He came in in place of Rodney Peete in the second half and brought us back to win the game. And he was the quarterback from that point on.
Yeah.
And he had some really memorable games, especially 2003, the year we went to the Super Bowl. We got a lot of good bounces that way. A lot of things went our way. I really thought that year we were going to win it. But it wasn't meant to be. But I'm really hoping that this is our chance to play the Patriots again in a Super Bowl.
I hope it is too.
Have an opportunity to exact a degree of revenge.
Yeah, Joe, I want to ask you, and it's really weird because you and I know the history going all the way, back to those days and stuff, and the Titans sort of suffered from this back in 2008, but it is pretty weird that it's like people are just now sort of discovering the Panthers, and they're not getting that respect factor that a franchise that, even though it is fairly new, but still has a pretty good history, winning tradition.
Yeah, for as young as Carolina is in franchise terms, I think we do have a pretty rich tradition. We've had some really impactful players. We have had some not so good players, players that have done some not so good things, I should say.
Yeah.
And we were in a Super Bowl within 10 years of being founded. We were founded in '95 and we went to the Super Bowl in '03. So I think that's, there's still several teams in the NFL that have yet to go to a Super Bowl. So I think that's saying something. And yeah, all season long, we're used to it as Panther fans to be, I hate to use the term disrespected, but to be taken lightly. We're a small market team. If you don't live within, 3 or 4 state radius, you're going to get very little coverage on them. And Charlotte in particular is an area where a lot of transients, I hate to use that word, they're not like vagrants, but people who are in banking come in and out of Charlotte from all over the world, really, because Charlotte is such a such a big banking center. So you get people from Pittsburgh, New York, and they're bringing their passion and their love for their teams that they've been fans of. So, like, I was a 49er fan before the Panthers existed.
Right.
Like, my son Eric, he's only 9. He's going to be a real first-generation Panther fan. So right now he's looking at Cam Newton and Jonathan Stewart and Mike Tolbert, and these are the guys he's going to remember when he's my age. Talking to his children who hopefully will be Panther fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think the Panthers are often overlooked, and that's been the case this whole season.
I want to ask you about Flaggate in a minute, but I know Jack wants to jump in.
Why on earth are Seattle getting upset about a flag that is a concept that is one of the dumbest in football? 12th man that was copied from Texas A&M, and they probably copied it from someone else. Yeah, I don't know. I even looked, like I was looking at the Panthers' history on Pro Football Reference, and I forgot the fact that they've actually won the NFC South 3 years in a row. The NFC South was like every year it was a different team winning. Yeah. And even the Falcons locally here. I mean, I guess too much of my brain here. I'm thinking about the Falcons, and they've been in the NFL like 50 years, and it's still a college football thing. So is that a tough thing for Carolina, kind of like becoming a pro football town in a kind of a college football area?
Well, realistically, looking at Charlotte, there's really no good college teams there in the media area. UNC Charlotte has just started a football program there in the city. And then I guess Clemson, which is within 3 hours or so of Charlotte. But really, North
It's
Carolina
basketball country, isn't it?
is basketball country, exactly, as a whole. It's definitely a basketball area. But because of the winning, you have really seen, and this happened in 2003, the city really got behind the team. As the wins kept coming, you saw more and more people tailgating, more and more Panther fans in the stadium. If you go to a Panthers game and they're playing the Steelers, it's going to be half and half, 60-40, because there's that many Steelers fans. So this winning is great for making Charlotte more of a pro football town. And I think the biggest thing is Dave Gettleman is doing a fantastic job of winning now and continuing to build for the future.
Yes.
So that the Panthers are not a one-year wonder. They are going to be like the Pittsburgh Steelers, like the Denver Broncos, like the Dallas Cowboys. Every year they're going to be known as a team that has a chance to win it all. That's what he's really building, trying to go long-term. Yes, there will be short-term success, but we want to continue this for the future, not just 2 or 3 years. We're trying to, make sure people know that every year the Panthers are going to have a chance to win it all.
Gettleman came under fire for some of his decisions, most notably the Steve Smith thing. That's probably the biggest decision that fans haven't liked. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yes, totally.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, it reminds me in a sense of Ozzie Newsome, a guy who's also built a winning tradition in Baltimore. He does seem like it's early. He doesn't have the pedigree, the resume that Ozzie does, but it does seem he has that. And Steve Smith had a great year in Baltimore, don't get me wrong, but he seems to know how to build his locker room in a fashion that does create a team that knows who it is and plays like it.
Well, I think you're going in the direction of why he got rid of Steve Smith. It had nothing to do with his talent and his whether or not he's capable of continuing at this age. It was about the locker room. With Steve Smith there in the locker room, Cam wouldn't have had the opportunity to sort of blossom into the quarterback / leader that he is. Steve Smith's personality is very big, and he's boisterous. And Gettleman knew that in order to cultivate Cam Newton to become the leader and player that he is today, he had to get rid of the bigger personality. And sure, the fans didn't like it, but they weren't thinking of it from the perspective of it's going to be better for the locker room. We just know we love Steve Smith. He's a small guy that plays like a big guy, doesn't take crap from anybody, and just has that really tough attitude that we like. So, Gettleman, you say he doesn't have the pedigree that Ozzie does, and he doesn't as far as as a GM. But he was with the Giants for many, many years. He was with them through many Super Bowls. He was a scout, player personnel evaluator, just all kinds of positions under the GM. And now that he's had the opportunity to come into Carolina and run the show, we've seen some really significant growth in a relatively small amount of time.
I think he's doing a fantastic job, and that's what I meant as a GM. And he certainly does have the background and the resume, and I'm not at all shocked that he's doing a great job.
Right, I agree. I agree. I'd never really heard of him, because you don't really hear much about the lower level guys. But
Right,
when he
right.
came in and started making the draft picks, I was like, wow, this guy really knows what he's doing. I was impressed.
Yeah, I think one of the keys to this year was the total breakout of Cam Newton. Were you kind of nervous at the beginning of the year when Kelvin Benjamin tore his ACL and tore Sharona's heart because she had him in like 15 fantasy leagues?
I did. I had him all over the place. It broke my heart.
Yeah, I was very nervous because we didn't really know what we had on the offensive line, and we didn't know what we had with the receivers. We knew Teddy Ginn, we knew what his role could be, but he's certainly not a number one receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some concern. I knew if we were able to still run the ball, that we could compete, that we didn't have to be, this high-powered passing machine. But with the emergence of Cam, the fact that Kelvin Benjamin was injured was, I think, a very good thing for Cam, because he didn't have a guy that he could just chuck the ball to, no matter how high it is, and KB can jump up and grab it. He really had to become a true pocket passer. He had to look at his reads, he had to go through his progressions, and find the guy that was open to get the ball to, instead of just counting on Kelvin Benjamin so much. So that was, I hate to say it was a good thing, because it wasn't for KB, but as far as Cam's development, it really was.
Yeah, he did target the crap out of it. I mean, what did Kelvin Benjamin have, like 150 targets last year? It was crazy. And
yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. And that goes to show you how quickly Benjamin picked up on things, the transition from college to the pros.
All right, Joe, since you mentioned it, I've got to pat myself on the back just a little bit. Who told you and Tony and, was it Ken?
Probably.
That Michael Orr was going to be better at left tackle and was going to be a fine addition to your team.
You did. You preached it. You did, and that honestly is the biggest, I think, surprise of this season, is how well the offensive line played. Mm-hmm. They sort of started to come together last year, but the left tackle was still the weak link.
Yeah.
And by bringing him in, I think he's had a resurgence of his career, because he's been rock solid. I mean, I can't believe that the Titans let him go. Because that's, he's made a very, very big difference in how long Cam has to be able to sit there and pick a guy to throw to.
Their offensive line decisions have been...
Glower was not garbage for the Titans, but
so awful.
It's weird. Like, people have said this, and you get this idea about a player, and you don't believe things that are contrary to that idea, and that's definitely me and Michael Oher. And I'm sure Sharona said it, and I didn't hear her because, blah, blah, blah. But some expert,
he never listens to me.
Some ESPN person mentioned that he was better at left than right, and who knows, maybe Sharona's voice was transposed into my head, and it's like, okay. But I'm always wondering, like, is he actually that good? Is he getting the good? Because the offensive line, it's tough to judge. You could definitely tell that Seattle's offensive line was terrible, but I mean, for the Panthers, I feel like the way that Newton plays, the offensive line, if they're like league average, that's great for them since they've been so bad the past few years.
Look at it this way. The Titans released Michael Orr, let him go to Carolina. They traded Andy Levitre to the Atlanta Falcons. Both of those guys were, big free agent acquisitions for them that did not work out. They go to their new teams, and all of a sudden they're balling out and doing well. That tells you a lot.
Was Levitre that good? I don't know,
he was pretty good. He was pretty good in Atlanta. He really was.
He was pretty good. Yes, he
Somebody's
was.
got like a 6th-round pick for him.
They had their ups and downs this
Yeah.
year. The Falcons did. But I think another reason Ower was able to excel here is he was reunited with his offensive line coach from his time with the Ravens. I want to say his last name is Matskos, something like that. But Carolina picked him up to be the offensive line coach here. So I guess they have a special relationship, or he knows how to, instruct Michael Oher. And I mean, compared to his time in Tennessee to what he's playing right now, I mean, it's night and day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking about an offensive line that 2 years in a row suffered injuries, was pulling guys off the street and putting scrubs, literal scrubs, janitors, one-on-one with J.J. Watt.
Oh, that's not fair.
That's what the Titans do.
That's exactly what the Titans did.
That is not fair.
What a change it's been. But it's an odd thing to think about this weekend because the AFC, you have this like super pedigree because Peyton and Tom Brady for the 17th time, and they've played like 50 playoff games combined. And then you go to the NFC where Carson Palmer just got his first playoff win,
Right.
and Cam Newton, I think, just got a second playoff win.
Right.
But everybody thinks that the NFC team is going to be the favorite in the Super Bowl. So that's an interesting thing. I don't know if
I don't necessarily. I wouldn't think that. I think either I think the AFC team is going to be the favorite just based on experience.
Because it's either going to be Patriots or Broncos.
Right, exactly.
And they're media
they have
favorites.
the name cachet for sure.
They do.
Maybe that'll be a
Mhm.
gambling aspect.
Right, and I don't. Of course, I'm just speculating, but that's me looking at it. I would say, especially if the Patriots make it, as many times as they've been, they have to be a favorite of some type. Maybe not a big favorite.
Yeah, the Patriots went like a decade without a Super Bowl, but if they go this year, it'll be like their 7th Super Bowl since 2001, and they will actually lead the NFL in total Super Bowl appearances with 9, and the Broncos have like 6, 7 Super Bowl.
Right.
They've lost a bunch.
Right.
That's the funny thing about the Patriots. Like they have, because of Super Bowl 20, which I attended, they'll always have a negative Super Bowl point differential because they can't win a Super Bowl by more than 4 points. Just been the way. Are you still mad at John Fox for going for 2 early in the 4th quarter there? Because if he hadn't gone for 2 early, it would have been up 3 late instead of tied when that field goal went in. That's just.
Who'd you go for 2 then?
It was like the first year of the 2, and they went for it early in the 4th quarter. They missed 2 2-point conversions.
Right.
If they just kicked extra points, I think that last touchdown would have given them a 3-point lead.
Right, and then
But I don't know. It's,
if you're gonna put the blame on anybody, I would say it's on Casey for kicking it out of bounds. That was just a bonehead play. And you set the Patriots up at the 40-yard line with, enough time to get downfield, just kick a field goal with time running out and win the game. I hate to say blame it on anybody, but
Yeah.
I think the fall guy there is definitely Casey.
and do we feel bad for Fitzgerald Toussaint for that fumble in the 4th quarter? They had it.
Well, I mean, from the time you were in Pop Warner, they tell you tuck the ball away, put the ball away. You have to have it in there tight, put it up against your body, don't carry it like a loaf of bread, don't swing your arm out when you're running. All that stuff you hear from the time you're on Pop Warner. So I don't know if I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry that it cost them the game, I suppose.
Well, you could say the same thing about Nile Davis. I think that fumble he had. Also, I mean, I talked to Matt Stenger, who is a guy who writes for Arrowhead Pride, today for my podcast tomorrow, and we talked about that play. If he doesn't fumble, I think the Chiefs beat the Patriots.
Right.
Or at least it's a little more interesting. It came down to, because this was, I think This was the first weekend where every game was within a touchdown in like history of divisional. So every game had that one play. I mean, obviously the Toussaint fumble, the Nile Davis fumble, and Nile Davis actually looked pretty good after being totally buried on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a dynasty football player, like he was a real hot commodity because he was supposedly Jamal Charles' like backup, and then he became the third stringer and only played because Spencer Ware was hurt.
Yeah.
But then the Broncos game comes down to that fumble, and there was like a pass that Carson Palmer threw that should have been intercepted, and the next play that tipped touchdown gives them the lead. And that end of the Packers game was just crazy.
That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I watched the Monday night game where they did the same thing, and Ricardo Rogers made the game-winning catch. And then to see it happen again, almost exactly the same play, just how that never happens in a season. Lightning doesn't strike twice like that in a season, but it did this year. Pretty amazing.
Just how strong Aaron Rodgers' arm is, Sharona's boot. I mean, there was 4th and 20 at their own 4, and he pretty much threw a Hail Mary to Jeff Janis. Yeah. And then on the last play of the game, and he got blitzed, and he had to run, he was running to his left.
That's right.
And he threw the ball 60 yards. And it was the same play, like you said. It was weird because in the Detroit game, all the Lions were in the middle of the end zone. And Richard Rodgers was at the 2, and then he backed into the end zone, and Jeff Janis was at the goal line. But I think the ball was supposed to go to the right, and he was in the middle or the left, and that's just where the ball ended up. But man, that was great. And then of course the coin flip that wasn't.
That was a
ceremonial coin or something. What was that thing?
Coin flip.
I've never been able to flip a coin at all.
And then the NFL came out and said that it didn't actually have to flip, and so it became even weirder.
And it was appropriate for Larry Fitzgerald, who just dominated the postseason the last time the Cardinals. Well, the only time
I was screaming at the TV, hoping that he scored.
Because Carson Palmer, there was a play when Alex Smith had to avoid 3 sacks, and then he threw it to Jason Avant, who was still covered really well. But on that play where Carson Palmer almost got sacked, there was no one within 20 yards of Larry Fitzgerald, which might be considered a Titan-esque defensive breakdown there. And then he ran. Luckily, he wasn't the slowest guy who ran. And Eddie Lacy, it was looking like somebody at the beginning of what's that show where people try to lose weight or something? The Biggest Loser. It was one of those. Please tackle me. I look so slow.
We talk about that play on my podcast tomorrow.
The Packers, they did fire their running backs coach. I wonder if it's because they couldn't get Eddie Lacy to get on a treadmill.
And their tight ends coach, Joe mentioned Rodgers, the tight end Rodgers, and he underperformed.
Yeah, at one point, early in the year, Aaron Rodgers had been looking to Richard Rodgers, as a sort of a weapon because he was so limited with the personnel he had at receiver. But once Aberdabis, or whatever his name is, he came back, sort of Rodgers' production kind of went nowhere. He stopped being a weapon.
I mean, you think the Packers had 13 points at the end, their offense was terrible, but they actually were missing their top 3 receivers in the beginning of the year. Randall Cobb got hurt. By the way, real quick sidelight, going for 2 playoff draft. After week 1, I led the league in scoring. This week, my entire team scored 12.9 points. I had Antonio Brown, who got hurt. I had Randall Cobb, who made a great catch, and then his chest caved in and he was out. But it was Jared Abbrederis who tore his ACL last year. Jeff Janis was a 7th-round pick. Hoodie, what's his name, was struggling. And Richard Rodgers, who wasn't even their starting tight end, I think. Anyway,
right.
I lost Joe. Actually, we got Joe the Avatar.
Oh, there he is.
Sometimes Google does the old Avatar trick. Yeah. But that was a good game. I mean, it's the Kansas City game was the stinker, and it wasn't even
a bad game.
It wasn't a stinker. It was I mean, I kind of knew they were in trouble when they threw that pass to Albert Wilson, pride of Georgia State. And he caught the ball, but then he did the arm across the goal line after he fell down. And if he had done that, that would have saved them like 2 or 3 minutes. They might have had a shot.
Did you
But at the
think
1
that,
yard line, you knew they were getting stuffed. And they were
Did
just
you-
like, well, do, we don't care.
did you have flashbacks to Kevin Dyson like I did?
Well, Kevin Dyson at
No,
least
1 foot,
reached.
yeah. Another foot, and he would have got that ball over the goal line, right?
By the way, Kevin Dyson was the target on one of those 2-point conversion attempts for the Panthers. Little known fact there. 2-time Super Bowl loser on 2 different teams, Kevin Dyson.
Oh, Zach! Zach's a hater.
Sounds like it.
What?
I said you're a hater.
Of course I'm a hater. I don't get it. Sometimes you come off as a super hater, but now you're like Panthers land. There's nothing to hate. It's his own love.
Now be sure to remind everybody.
You just purr all the time because you're a Panthers fan.
I know. I became a Panthers fan again, more so, and now I have 3 cats, and I purr.
Crazy cat lady, Panthers
Crazy cat
fan.
lady.
It's all good.
Now be sure to tell everybody who the Titans drafted Kevin Dyson over.
Would that be Randy Moss?
That might be Randy Moss.
And do you have the jersey? I forget.
I still have a Randy Moss jersey.
Because
Titans Randy Moss
people
jersey.
don't remember the fact that the Titans did get Randy Moss in that bizarre last year of his career, and the Titans coaches were like, we couldn't get, was it Kenny Britt and Randy Moss on the field at the same time? That was fun.
It was the most
I
ridiculous.
miss Jeff Fisher.
Anyway, all right, whatever. Don't make me.
We're gonna do a real quick for Sharona. This is the over it or not. It's gonna be very quick because we want to keep talking playoffs here. But so it's hashtag over it or hashtag nah. Number 1, Brady the baby.
Nah.
Cry baby.
Cry Brady. Cry Brady.
Number 2, Titans AARP coaching tree.
Over it.
So.
Although
yeah,
I do wish Ray Horton all the best in Cleveland with Hugh Jackson, and
yeah, I hope 2 years of the Titans didn't totally ruin Ray Horton's career.
Yeah,
He was
really.
like going to be a head coaching candidate, and 2 years with the Titans, and I'm glad he could get a job somewhere else.
and hopefully, and I'm relatively certain it probably won't happen. Hugh Jackson won't feel fit to cut off his balls by bringing in some old white guy to do his job.
Hey, the Titans have only done that twice, and it's failed both times. Yeah. I don't think any move has been as universally hated as everything the Titans have done this week. Like Micah Mularkey, like all the GM candidates had to like sign off on him. So we have Mike Mularkey. I'm like, well, the Titans are going to price sign some hot offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. They re-signed Dick LeBeau, who's coached 57 years in the NFL, so he's coached more years than most coaches in the NFL have been alive. And then their offensive coordinator is Terry Robisky. Is that his first name? I hope I got that right.
He's from the Falcons, and from what I understand, I think that might actually be a decent move, an underrated move.
He's a spry 61.
Jack.
So
For a long time as a receivers coach.
Yeah.
And his son actually went to Ohio State and played receiver and got drafted, I think, by the Redskins.
Yeah, Brian Robisky, like, I tried to look up his pro football, like, reference page, and I feel like he had a cup of coffee with every team because his dad was a coach, and he always like was a coach but never could do anything. I'm pretty sure he was at the Titans for 3 seasons. So, yeah, I think he was drafted by the Browns. So, yeah, the Browns, exciting wide receiver tree. Uh-oh, Sharona's having issues. Half a beer and she can't get her headset on. That's not good.
I'm twisted. Let me get out of this.
So is Keep Pounding, is that the best team hashtag ever for the Panthers?
I think it is as far as what the significance of it is. It has to do with Sam Mills. His bout with, I guess it was intestinal cancer, I think is what it was. And, despite the fact that he was doing chemo and radiation treatments and, fighting to stay alive, he was out there coaching. And he made a speech during a game, I believe, and talked about, you got to go out there and no matter what hits you, what comes up against you, you got to keep fighting. You got to keep pounding, like a drum. So they adopted that reference. You know, Sam Mills spent the latter part of his career with the Panthers and became really was a fan favorite. He became a real city favorite. So for him to come and coach like he did, and they have a statue of him outside Panther Stadium actually, where it kind of tells you about him. And on the inside collar of their jersey, on the back, it says "Keep Pounding."
Aww.
Well, I think that, you know, it may seem odd to some people that don't know the story behind it, but yes, I think it's very significant to Carolina Panther fans. And I'm a cancer survivor myself, so I can totally relate to the "Keep Pounding" motto.
It's a pretty good story. And I think Sam Mills was a USFL player. I was just looking at his very brief, Pro Football Reference. I mean, he played with Carolina when he was 36, 37, and 38 as an inside linebacker. That's like, wow. That's super. That's like, yeah, you're a pretty good athlete there. Yeah, he was part of the New Orleans. Remember, New Orleans had a good defense, back in the 90s.
What were they called? It was Vaughn Johnson, Sam Mills, Pat Swilling, and one more, because they ran a 3-4. They were the Dome Patrol, I think is what they were known as, because he played there in New Orleans in the Dome. But, yeah, that was a terribly fearsome foursome at linebacker. And yes, Sam Mills was there for many years, and like I said, came to Carolina. I didn't realize he was almost 40 when he was playing with us. I knew he was older, but he played very well the year with us, and it was really his, like Peanut, Tillman, they have the experience that they can share with the younger players and sort of bring them along in their understanding of the game. That's where his value was, aside from what he was able to do on the field. Sam Mills made an impact in the locker room.
And I'm just excited to see that Cortland Finnegan got on the stat sheet last weekend. I mean,
he was a long-time Titan.
He's so infamous with the Titans and getting into the fights with Andre Johnson, just being a feisty guy, and that 7th-round pick who had a really good career. And there are a lot of players in the NFL that they don't really get to announce their retirement with a lot of fanfare, and usually they end up with a whimper. But for him to be a game away from the Super Bowl is pretty crazy. And that's, there are a bunch of those good stories. I mean, I've always been a fan of Mike Tolbert, and he's been a team a few years, and he scored double-digit touchdowns one year with San Diego, and had just a freaking tank of a guy. I mean, when you have that short yardage package, when he's in there and Cam Newton's in there, and I mean, heck. So we think Jonathan Stewart's okay for this weekend? I saw he missed the day of practice, but
I know they want to bring him along slowly. I think they're just not going to hold him out until Sunday, is what I think. He's familiar enough with the offense that he should be able to just jump right in and play. That's what I would do. I wouldn't have him practice. I'd have him, rehabbing the foot and trying to, get ready for Sunday. But I know Fozzie Whitaker is almost 100%.
Yeah, he practiced today fully.
He did. Right, he's almost 100%. He's not quite there, but he did practice today. And we have Cameron Artis-Payne, who has looked well in spots. He had a fumble early last week that really would have changed the tide if the Panthers wouldn't have recovered it, but it was actually Mike Tolbert who jumped on the ball and was able to recover it. So I think we do have some capability there in the backfield, but as far as Stewart goes, I definitely would want him, and if it takes him not practicing all week, then so be it.
People even realize how good D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart were, just because they were just stuck together. 2 first-round picks who just got insane, crazy contracts. And you're like, finally, Jonathan Stewart was let free, and I know people were worried, but I think he had a pretty good year. I mean, he had a little injury issue at the end, but they had already kind of cleansed their positions. So they could sit him. And he was looking really good last week. I mean, he had a few big runs early.
Yes, and he's tough to tackle because he's very compact. I remember before the Panthers drafted him, sort of in the the when you start to look at players and the pre-combine workouts, during that time, ESPN did a special on him, and they showed him working out and how athletic he was, and showing his athletic prowess. The guy looked like, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but the He-Man figures that you could play with, Skeletor and whatnot. But he looked like a real life-size He-Man with all the muscle definition, and he was a really thick football player. I was just so blown away. And then we draft him and we see him run. His speed, for as big as he is, as far as bulky, it's really impressive.
He's like Jerome Bettis that way.
Yeah, maybe not quite as thick as Jerome and not as tall, but surprisingly fast for how much bulk he's carrying around. And he showed some of that last week against the Seahawks. Richard Sherman was able to catch him, but only because he had a good angle on him. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think we're gonna see Jonathan Stewart's departure at the end of this year, though. Unfortunately.
Okay, I gotta show. This is Sharona when she found out she was going to
I know that
Carolina.
Was such
We'll see if this will actually play.
Sharona, Tony,
a commercial.
At the game, the NFC Championship, so you've got to get with him at least for a little while. Maybe you can tailgate with him.
Who's that?
Tony.
Oh yeah, I will. I haven't. I've been tied up all day. I had touched base with Lynn on Twitter and some other people. I was going to try to hook up with some other Panthers people. I'm driving up. The plan. It gets so close that I'm driving. I had actually thought about flying, but I'm driving, and the plan is to leave early Saturday morning and get there, pick up my stuff, check into the hotel, and then hook up with some people. So
yeah,
get your drink on.
Get my drink on.
And Charlotte's a great town to go out and enjoy, if you know.
Yeah. I hear the bar scene's pretty, the nightlife scene's pretty
definitely.
cool.
You'll have to check out the epicenter while you're there. Plus, there are tons of other places, and you can walk everywhere.
Yeah. I forget. I'm staying. I forget which hotel I ended up deciding on, the Fairfield or something like that. Anyway, I'm like 3 miles from the stadium, so I'm close enough to hoof it if I have to. But we'll see how the traffic and stuff is. I may Uber it.
Do you think that most of Charlotte will be taking Monday off since the games?
Late.
The NFL does this awkward thing with championship games. They try to make them like the Super Bowl. Like the early games at 3 and the late games at 6:40. So the late game's not going to be over till after 10.
Yeah.
And if there's a victory, there's going to be some partying after the fact.
It'll be crazy.
There will be some
productivity on Monday.
Yeah, I think there will be a lot of calling into work Monday morning and taking the day off. I hope we're that lucky. I hope we're able to get the victory against Carson Palmer, and I think the key for us is going to be pressure. We have to pressure him.
I know he was spry on that last play, but other than that, yeah, I'd say it's interesting because there's so many kind of mobile kind of quarterbacks, and we have like 3 statues in the semifinals. I know Tom Brady could move around a little bit, and I'm sure Sharona, I would have liked to have been on the scene when Peyton Manning had his weird cower in fear, yet realized a half a second later, oh crap, I wasn't touched.
That was
It's
crazy.
like a 30-yard pass. Oh yeah, that was great.
That was good.
Peyton is not going to be scrambling so much, and you can tell like he's not comfortable in the under the center, but Kubiak's like, this is my fucking offense. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's for that reason, really, that I'm picking the Patriots. I love Peyton Manning as much as anybody, but I'm not a fan of Gary. Wasn't a fan of Gary Kubiak's offense when he was with Houston, and so.
Right, I agree with you. I don't think he can bet against Tom Brady, not when he has Edelman and Gronkowski. If one or two or both of them were missing, it'd be a different story. But since he has them both, I wouldn't bet against him.
yeah, I'm pretty much. It was like when the AFC playoffs started. I was like, just give the Patriots the Super Bowl berth. I mean, come on.
Do you think that it's interesting that in the very first round of playoffs, all the visiting teams won, and then in the very next round of playoffs, all the home teams won?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That probably gave him a bit of an edge.
It's the first year that that's happened.
All
Yeah.
the road teams retired after an extra week, and the home teams got an extra week to recover. Peyton Manning got to take a little more HGH. Sorry, Sharona, too soon? Sorry.
You know what?
Hey, when Peyton's gone, he's going to be on more
You got that?
commercials. I'm just saying. It's going to get worse.
It is.
He's going to take Michael Strahan's job. So
I'm very curious to see what Peyton does do when he's through playing football.
people were talking about him being a coach. I'm like, come on.
That's what I think. I think he's going to want to go into coaching.
That's a lot of work.
It is a
You
lot.
can
I
just
don't
go
think
around
he'll
and do
coach.
speeches and get paid lots of money or do.
I think he's more like a John Elway, a front office type who, a mastermind behind the scenes. I don't think he'll coach, but we'll see. Could be wrong.
I think he'll coach because he loves the intricacies of the game. The matchup of this offensive style versus that defensive style. You got to try to come up with the best way to attack it. I think he likes that part of it. But
I do too.
He seems to be a bit of a control freak, so maybe he
Yeah.
would want to be front office.
I don't think that I agree with you that he is very much an X's and O's guy, but the best coaches are good teachers. And as much as I love Peyton, I don't know that he would be that.
Right.
It's pretty rare that like the great player becomes a great coach just because it's so hard for them to deal with the everyday guy. It's usually like the grinder kind of player ends up becoming. I mean, maybe Peyton's like the quarterback guru guy, but even that, it's usually those guys are the. Who was that guy the Patriots took in the third round who had a crappy kind of career and now he's a quarterback coach? I mean, one of those guys who like couldn't quite make it in the NFL, but
Right.
was the film rat type guy.
Ed Reed is now a coach.
Ed Reed. Oh yeah. Didn't
With
get
the Jets, right?
He did.
Did you guys notice that the Buffalo Bills have hired the first full-time female assistant coach?
I did not notice.
Why is this not a news thing?
It just went and happened. It just happened like 30 minutes before we went on air.
Oh, very cool. I would have not
It's in my-
figured Rex
Yeah,
Ryan to be such a progressive.
I can never think of his name. Hold on. Their GM, I'm a fan.
Next thing you know, women are going to get the vote, so watch out.
Next thing you know, one might actually, be running for president. Who knows?
That's
Maybe
crazy.
one will win it.
So, Joe, can you give us the scenario for Sunday? Give us a preview. What's going to happen?
What's going to happen Sunday? I think that the Panthers are going to come out and try to dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides. They're going to use running game that's going to include more runs from Cam Newton. However, the runs will not be called plays. These runs will come from him standing in the pocket. They're not being, the secondary of Arizona is very good. So
Her name is, I'm sorry, I just looked it up real quick, Joe. Let me interrupt just a second. Her name is Catherine Smith. She is going to be the special teams quality control coach. Anyway, okay.
And she'll be on your show next week. Anyway.
Very nice.
I wish.
Very nice.
Anyway,
Reach.
Please carry on.
So as I was saying, Cam Newton will run the ball from the pocket. The receivers won't get open. He's going to hold the ball, and instead of throwing it out of bounds, he's going to take off and make the Cardinals defense have to worry about him. So then the coverage will loosen up, and they'll be able to run the ball with the running back some, throw the ball, move the ball downfield. And on defense, as I said, they have to pressure Carson Palmer. Lately, the pressure from the outside, from the defensive end positions, has been less than spectacular. All their pressure has been coming up the middle from the defensive tackles, in particular, K'Wan Short, who has turned into a beast of a player. Just unbelievable. And Star, the Tulele, has really turned it on the last couple of weeks, too. So I think that's where the game's going to be won or lost for Carolina, is on the line of scrimmage. We have a tough time against 3-4 defenses, but I think if Cam is able to escape the pocket and get some yardage with his legs, that's going to make a big difference for the Panthers. That's something he's not done here recently, is take off. He's always been trying to wait for somebody to come open and then either takes a sack or throws the ball out of bounds. And I think by him running, we'll have an opportunity to stay ahead of the chains. And instead of 2nd and 10, we may end up in a 2nd and 7. Even if he only gets a couple of few yards. But that's where I think the difference will be made. So I expect the Panthers to win. If I can give a score, I would say somewhere around 27-17. Somewhere in that area.
Okay.
You mean the Panthers are going to keep America from the dream of Chris Johnson in the Super Bowl? That would be very bad. Because we're going to be doing that Chris Johnson hip-hop tune.
I'm an East Carolina fan, so that wouldn't be terrible.
He says that he's going to play in the Super Bowl.
If they go, right.
Yeah.
I can't blame him. If you had the opportunity, wouldn't you?
Sure.
So we'll hand it off to Sharona. So Sharona, what do you think? How do you think it's going to go in the AFC Championship game?
The AFC Championship game.
Clayton.
Well, Peyton can't turn the ball over. His wide receivers need to find their hands. Take your hands to the game with you this week, guys. I think that it's going to come down to Denver's defense. I think Denver's defense, if the Broncos are going to win, Denver's defense obviously has to pressure. Tom Brady gets the ball out faster. He's the guy that Peyton used to be in terms of getting the ball out. They need to not leave Gronkowski uncovered. Julian Edelman's a threat. The Patriots thrive in that short, quick passing game. A key is going to be, is Chris Harris going to play? I think he's questionable with a shoulder injury right now. They definitely need him. I said if the Broncos could get a defensive score, they might win this game. Otherwise, I just, again, I don't have faith in Denver's offense with Gary Kubiak. I just don't.
And boom, yeah, Kansas City last week, 0 sacks, 0 turnovers, and 0 wins. So that's how it goes. So, Joe, I'd like to say thank you for being on the show, reaching that hour point. So, tell everybody where they can find you on the Twitters and on the lines.
You can find me on Twitter at Joe Riollano, or you can type in the freaking Puerto Rican. And please check if you're a Panther fan or just somebody who likes to watch the Panthers play. Please check out CarolinaCatChronicles.com. It is the #1 fan site for all your Carolina Panther news. We've got some stories up right now about Cam Newton and the flag issue. We've got some defensive end draft previews for the Panthers. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. We just finished our fantasy football league. Sharona, you were in that this year, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I've been in it 2 years. I got a $25 voucher because I placed high, but I didn't win, obviously.
Very nice, very nice. That's something we do every year. Is the fantasy football league?
I
It's
enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, isn't it? It's specifically for Panther fans, but we do let some other fans of teams come in, people we know and have dealt with before, and the winner gets $300, and whoever the first round draft pick is, they get that player's jersey. The first year it was Kelvin Benjamin. This year it was Shaq Thompson. But yeah, that's something we do. So yeah, check us out at CarolinaCatChronicles.com. We're always doing something.
And they have a great webcast on Tuesday night too. Check it out.
Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock. It's the C3 podcast, where myself, the professor, and Mel Mayoff, we get together and talk all things Panthers.
That is excellent. Well, thank you, Joe, for being on.
Yes, thanks.
Sharona, tell us what you have going on, what's happening with you.
Tomorrow I have my super podcast with Mark Schofield of Inside the Pylon and Matt Stanger, who writes for Arrowhead Pride. And I'm scheduled to do an interview with the guys from Field Site 98. We may talk some Tennessee Vols if we can get that thing going. So, yeah, and then, of course, check out my coverage of the game this weekend.
Yeah, NFC Championship, right?
Yep, yeah, and follow me on Twitter, Sports by Sharona.
She's covering it. She's doing some press coverage and hitting it hard. I don't have a lot of big news other than the what's brewing with Zach. I purchased a Wicked Weed Cherry Go Lightly. It was the first beer I've ever purchased in my life that costs more than $1 an ounce. It was it's like a sour cherry beer, and because it's from Carolina, I think I'll be popping that sucker open around 6:45 on Sunday. So that should be fun. I don't know what else will happen, but you know, Zach_Law on Twitter. That's where you can find me. Going_4_2. That's Sharona's maintaining that now. We actually have a Facebook page, so we'll get the show up on there. So please like us there, and you can just keep up with us there. So thanks everybody for being on the show tonight, and as usual, we will sign off by saying, of course, with a Southern and an AFC Championship game, kiss my grits.
Kiss my grits.
Kiss my grits.